recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Many Americans, and in fact all of us, would remember the unfairness of 2008 and that crisis when bankers who made bad decisions, who played games with our economy, not only did they not go to jail, they got to keep their jobs and their multi-million-dollar salaries. I feel that in a particular way as someone who pastors and moves in communities where poor and marginalized people have the weight of the law come down upon them for the smallest of infractions. Not one banker went to jail, they kept their multi-million-dollar salaries. When bankers made risky bets that threatened our entire economy, they got to cash in. They should be held accountable. We discovered shortly after regulators took control of Silicon Valley Bank that top executives at the bank offloaded millions of dollars worth of stock in the weeks leading up to the collapse. Very convenient. Including their former CEO who sold $3.6 million worth of stock 2 weeks before the bank crashed. The Dodd-Frank banking reform law included a compensation clawback provision for executives identified as excessive risk takers, or in other words, those who put their banks and the entire economy in jeopardy. Mr. Gruenberg, the FDIC, in conjunction with the other financial regulators, began working on a rule to implement this provision in Dodd-Frank in 2011 and then again in 2016, but a final rule was never issued. Does the FDIC have plans to revisit this rule?
It has been discussed, Senator, and it seems to me appropriate.
It's appropriate and I would say urgent. And I know that the Justice Department and the SEC are looking closely into this matter, and I would encourage them to include any evidence of insider trading. That seems only appropriate. Given the circumstances, that should be a part of the scope of their probe. But there is a scenario where these executives not only get away scot-free, but also with sizable paydays. And the FDIC should use every tool it has at its disposal to prevent it. We certainly don't want to incentivize this kind of behavior. So again, Mr. Gruenberg, outside of this rule, tell me, where can Congress step in to stop incentivizing this type of high-risk behavior? Does the FDIC need additional legal tools to hold excessive risk takers accountable?
Thank you, Senator. First, as a matter of law, whenever a bank fails, the FDIC is required to conduct an investigation of the conduct of the board and the executives of the institution, and we have authorities under the law to impose accountability, including civil money penalties, restitution, and barring individuals from the business of banking. So we have significant civil authorities under the law now. It was mentioned earlier, and I think it's appropriate, that we do not have explicit clawback authority in regard to compensation. We can get at that issue through our existing authorities, but certainly providing explicit clawback authority under the Federal Deposit Insurance Act, as the FDIC has under the Dodd-Frank Act, would be appropriate, in addition to completing the rulemaking that you raised previously.
Now, both of these things are important. We've got to complete the rulemaking and look at and see whatever additional tools may be necessary. Certainly, as the ship is sinking, we don't want bankers to be able to move all of their products on a lifeboat.
I agree, Senator.
And so we've got to address this. I want to switch to a related topic. For several days, payroll providers banking with SVB or Signature Bank had no way to access their deposits. Everyday folks, leading to many Americans receiving their paychecks late or having missing paychecks. Too many Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and in this case, they got it late. And as a result, some of the 64 million Americans living paycheck to paycheck were hit with overdraft fees, non-sufficient fund fees due to the disruption, something I've addressed in other settings. And that's why I sent a letter with Senator Booker urging regulators to impose a temporary moratorium on overdraft and non-sufficient fund fees for folks who incurred these fees at no fault of their own. Mr. Gruenberg, does the FDIC have a plan surrounding overdraft and non-sufficient fund fee protections in the event that we experience broader systemic issues?
Senator, you raise an important question. We received your letter. As a starting point, we know there were delays. We really want to get the facts in terms of if overdraft fees were really imposed as a result of those delays. If we can confirm that information, then we can consider what actions to undertake. And we're glad to work with you and your staff as we follow up on that.
I look forward to working with you on this. Here's the bottom line. Ordinary folks who just showed up, put their deposits, they shouldn't have to bear the brunt and burden of these bad decisions made by bank executives.
Understood.
Thanks, Senator Warnock. Senator Daines from Montana is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. The failure of Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, and the general turmoil in the banking sector are the direct result of the failures of regulators, including the